So, we have ourselves some very great news when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens and their future top pairing on defense. You know from the title, you know from the thumbnail, today we are talking about David Reinbacher and giving a very big update on his season, and we're also talking about Lane Hutson because both of these guys have had some pretty good news given out to them earlier today that, hey, it makes sense to combine it into a video, right? So, let's go over on to Reinbacher first, because everybody's been clamoring around about this Swiss second-tier league game that started earlier today between Olten and the GCK Lions. Now, you may be wondering, where in the world does this come from? Well, I'll tell you. Olten and GCK are playing in the second-tier Swiss League. You know how the main Swiss League is called the NLA? Well, these teams are playing in the NLB. And their season against one another was for the rights to go out there and get one of them promoted. The thing is, a lot of Montreal Canadiens fans were watching this series with close eyes, because, depending on the result of this series, we may or may not see David Reinbacher for the EHC Kloten in the main NLA have to play a relegation series to fight it out and see if they would be able to stay in the top men's league. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, we had talked about this a bunch this season, but David Reinbacher's year with the EHC Kloten in the NLA was pretty bad. Not because he was bad. I mean, he had 11 points in 35 games played, a steep decline from his last year's production of 22 points in 46 games played, but EHC was really, really bad. And because of that, Canadiens fans were paying attention to this NLB series, which involves nobody from the Canadiens prospect pool. And we had ourselves the final results earlier today. So the GCK Lions ended up winning against Olten, and what that means, as summarized by this comment on the Canadian sub, David Reinbacher plays for EHC Kloten in the top tier. The Lions winning against Olten means they advanced to the lower tier final, where a relegation series against Kloten, Reinbacher's team, is not required anymore, as they are not eligible for promotion. And with that said, Grant McKegg goes out there and says, hey, Olten lost 5-4. Debate amongst yourselves about whether or not that means Reinbacher can come over now. I've given up. And so while it's not officially confirmed at the time of me recording this audio at the moment, while this may come over the next few days or maybe even the next few hours, for now, David Reinbacher's season in Kloten is done. He is no longer required to play any games, and thus, the transition of him heading over to the Montreal Canadiens seems a lot more likely now. And even if it's not Montreal, hey, Heidi K went out there and said this, Laval's right side as they approach playoff time, Reinbacher, Mailloux, and Barron. Along with Trudeau and Norlander, this might be the best D-core in the entire AHL. And hey, guess what? The Laval Rocket just tweeted this out themselves. We don't know when, but as soon as we do, you will know. And they have a flag of Austria in their tweet. They're talking about David Reinbacher, baby. They are seriously feeding in to this conversation that everybody seems to be tossing out there in Montreal. And then you have the memes like this one, David Reinbacher calling his family to tell them he's getting the F out of Kloten, and it's him all swagged out with a cell phone. Yeah, that's kind of funny too. But with this David Reinbacher news, all we can do is really breathe a sigh of relief, because we didn't really know if Reinbacher would have to play some extended games with Kloten in order for them to get relegated, whatever, and this ultimately is the best situation for everybody involved in that team. Because for Reinbacher, it means he can leave early, and for the rest of EHC Kloten, it means they don't have to play a series where they could lose and get relegated. They're staying in the top division, so everybody in that system is fine. They are probably very happy with the way this series between Olten and the GCK Lions ended up going in the B League. And realistically, like, before we go over to Lane Hutson, I know we've kind of spent some time on this topic. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Like, how crazy the Montreal Canadiens fan base is that they're going so far as to pay attention to Swiss B-League tournaments in order to see whether or not their prospect in the A-League is going to need to play a game or two to get relegated or not, and because he doesn't need to, now he can come over to Montreal and Laval as soon as he can. Like, that is such a crazy Montreal fanatic sort of mentality, and I love it. So, Montreal fans, never change. But speaking about defensemen in the system, let's go out there and talk about Lane Hutson, because he had himself his award given out to him earlier today. Take a look at this. Congrats to Lane Hutson on being named to the Hockey East first team of All-Stars, which shouldn't really be too much of a surprise. By the way, that's a great portrait. Like, look at that, eh? What a nice looking lad right there. Lane Hutson is wrapping up his BU season so far. He's got 43 points in 32 games played, so a slightly better points per game number than what he had last year with 48 points in 39 games. Honestly, the fact that he's still doing as good as he's doing, I feel like it's gone under the radar a little bit, mostly because everybody's focus has been on Slavkovsky and Waugh, but other than that, I mean, Hutson has still been a good player. He's still been strong in the NCAA and getting these awards of being a part of the Hockey East first All-Star team. I mean, it's very good to see him be right there. Also, he's a part of the Hobie Baker conversation, too. He's a nominee there. So, yeah, Lane Hutson still doing his thing. Also, quick shout out over to Elite Prospects, because my Why I Want video for Lane Hutson actually is included on their videos tab, which makes me feel better about my imposter syndrome of being a YouTuber on this platform. But in regards to some of the other stats I wanted to talk about, this was posted by Nick, the Habs fan, on Twitter. Lane Hutson and BU wrapped up the regular season over the weekend, and they're now looking to the postseason. I'm sure all Habs fans are rooting for them to go all the way instead of losing early so Lane can join Montreal sooner. Yeah, okay, you know what? You can let me know in the comments section below, what do you want the most for Lane Hutson? Are you wanting them to lose? Do you want BU to lose early so Lane Hutson can join Reinbacher in Laval or maybe even Montreal, who really knows? Or do you want BU to go all the way, win the national championship, give Lane Hutson his chip, and then finish off the year in Montreal with like 3 or 4 games? Like, would you rather see Lane Hutson lose early, or would you rather see him go all the way? That's the question that I want y'all to let me know in the comments section what your opinion is. But included in this Nick the Habs fan tweet is a wins above replacement number for Lane Hutson. He's in the 94th percentile of players, so top 6 percentile player in the NCAA. And when it comes to some of his similar players, I mean, the most similar player that stands out to me is Adam Fox. He's a 73% match here. Jack Johnson is number 2, which I get it. You know, Jack Johnson is not the flashiest name, but you gotta remember, Jack Johnson still had his heyday in the NHL. He was still good at some points. Jack Johnson was also taken 3rd overall when he was drafted, so he was certainly a good player back in the day. Then you have yourselves Cale Makar, who is down there, which, I mean, everybody's kind of saying if Lane Hutson ends up becoming anywhere near what Cale Makar is, then I think that's a pretty alright bet. And so realistically, with all these numbers, you know, all the stats, everybody was talking about Brian Leach last year, etc., etc. There's a lot going on here in Lane Hutson's profile that makes him look really good. He has a 100 percentile chance of being an NHL player and a 71 percentile chance of being a star. I don't know about you, but 71% odds, those are really good odds. 71 out of 100, that's like a 29% chance that he's not going to be a star. And if that was a casino game, that would be like right there in one of the most guaranteed categories that you could place your bets in. Like, this is a very easy bet to make. So for Lane Hutson, I mean, the fact is, he's wrapping up his regular season. They're going into the playoffs. Let me know in the comments as to whether or not you want BU to win or lose. As well, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Montreal Canadiens fans paying such close attention to the second-tier Swiss League and a relegation series that was going on over there that doesn't even involve any of the prospects, but whose conclusion ended up resulting in David Reinbacher finishing up his season for realsies. He'll be heading over to Montreal or Laval soon. We just gotta wait and see when that's gonna be. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.